killed, give me Isaiah 14 and 21. They did the same thing to my people. So you said that they put millions of my people. Yes, you said. Should a murderer go to jail for murdering? Absolutely. Should a thief go to jail when he steals? Absolutely. Should a robber pay back the money he robbed? Absolutely. So why shouldn't the white man pay for what he did? That's right. That's right.
You'll see just how it feels. Payback is a dog. It's a dog. Payback is a dog.
I'm in a hell of a hole, was never expected to grow. Just obstacles set in the road, that a result of me selling my soul. The story I'm telling is cold, but yet it's what everyone knows. The white man's the devil is known. America was never a home, only a place of captivity, safe facility, hating disfigure me. They claim that I'm lazy, be killing me. Maybe this slavery draining my energy. 400 years and counting, the trail of my tears is countless. Main fact that I'm here is astounding, but I can't wait till this shit is surrounded. Ready to tangle my king and the angel, be ready to rap. Crack in the sky, nuclear missiles and make it official. I'm capturing every cracker surviving. Put them all in chains where they need to be, slavery for me. And let the whole world see that with them in the cage and safer in the streets. Put the dog on a leash, get resolved for the beast. 144, get the ruler show, we could all be at peace. As soon as the trumpets are sound, your kingdom we busting it down. The only way justice is found, the time for your judgment is now.
You'll see just how it feels. Payback is a dog. It's a dog. Payback is a dog. It's a dog. Payback is a dog. It's a dog. Payback is a dog.
Look, ain't no remorse in my blood, Slim. It won't be no compromise. Now it's time to feed the worms. Watch his body turn to flies. I clutch iron while you trust the lies. The next Glock I buy gon' be Gen 5. I get it customized. And sending shots off like farewell. Praying payback come back around like a carousel. Still remember your Honda's words ringing in my head like bells. Said you in this body, you fit the Lord, fuck the cartel. Triangle choke, apply pressure to the game like I did Von Dale. Payback's a bitch in a dress, she a bombshell. Revenge is served cold, I just hope they make an oxtail. Glock fresh out the box, I swear it got that new car smell. Made myself a target in a world of mad shooters. Devils design fire for our babies to pass through. In the day of our king's reign, I'll be overzealous. They bought my jealous, I bought brand new parabellums.
You'll see just how it feels. Payback is a dog. It's a dog. Payback is a dog. It's a dog. Payback is a dog. It's a dog. Payback is a dog. It's a dog.
All right, Shalom Israel with the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge started at 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commander General Yohanan, and we're not affiliated with any other Israelite group nor any other Christian organization. All right, Salaki for the tardiness. All right, we're gonna get into it. This may not be your normal history class. All right, but we're gonna go ahead and rock with it. We may go over time. It really depends. I know brothers and sisters may have things to do and things like that. All right. If you guys have any questions too as well, make sure you put it into the live chat. All right. If y'all don't know me, I'm sure most of y'all brothers and sisters do know who I am. I'm Preaching Officer 5000 Urash Shamath in the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge. So we're going to talk now. Today's the history class, so we're going to talk about the history of idol worship and things like that. So can anybody give me a general idea of what they know? Anybody in the comment and live chat, what do y'all know when it comes to idol worship and the serving of the gods? What do y'all already know about it? Y'all go ahead and let me know in the chat. Just give me something. It could be anything. All right. What do we know about the serving of the gods and goddesses and things like that? Y'all go ahead and put it in the chat and let me know. Lock it. Okay, we got no, sorry, the sister said we don't. All right, young man Edward, the Christian cross. Okay, Most High in Christ. All right, that's one. All right, sister Imadat. She said it's a sin. Of course, we do know it's a sin. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. It's definitely a sin. All right, it's definitely a sin. Many worship other gods and don't even realize it. That's another thing too. All right. That's true. Let me go ahead and get one more book to see what's up. So, Laki, give me 1 second. Go ahead. What else? Anybody else got anything else, or that's it with y'all? All right. I know many worship without even realizing it. That's a fact. So we got this. We're gonna go into a few books. Probably, maybe not a few, maybe a couple books as well. All right. We're gonna go into a couple books. One of them is gonna be Satan's Angels. Definitely gonna talk about that. There's a book called Satan's Angels. Let's see if I can get it with you. But there's a few things I want to go over with that. Right, worshiping Buddha, Easter. All right, those are all good examples. So the first scripture I would like to pull, at least one of them, right? This first we're going to start in Deuteronomy chapter 7. All right, we're going to start at verse 3. I'm gonna break it all the way down. All right, because I want everyone to really understand the foundation of how important it is. All right, to not be under these different gods and goddesses that we have no business really to be following under. And there's a spirit that the Lord wants us to be in. All right, and we're gonna go ahead and get that. All right, we're gonna have that book on page 93. I believe that's the right book. All right, so we're going to start in Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 1. All right, Deuteronomy 7, verse 1. When the Lord thy God shall bring thee into the land, whither thou goest to possess it. Now remember, there was a land that the Lord wanted us to go in. All right. Now, if you haven't known by now, if you are so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native American, that means you are God's chosen people. All right. And so Deuteronomy chapter 7 is talking to you, and it's talking about you. And this was the spirit that the Lord wanted us to be in. All right. We were supposed to have our own land. We were supposed to have our own territory, our own place where we were supposed to live and dwell and raise families. All right. Unlike now, we don't have something like that because of our oppressor. Because of our oppressor and because of slavery and because of the forcing us to serve these other gods and goddesses that we had no business serving is why we don't have a land. Like this is like we're supposed to have our own territory. We're supposed to have our own government. We're supposed to have our own army. We're supposed to have our own leader. We're supposed to have our own military. But because of our oppressor and because of these different gods and goddesses, and we want to go after all of these idols and worship and not be divided like we're supposed to, is why we're suffering the way we are right now. Like how we're living in Norfolk isn't how we're supposed to be living. How we're living in Portsmouth isn't how we're supposed to be living. Like how we're living in Chesapeake and areas of Virginia Beach, like we're not supposed to be living that way. We're not supposed to be carrying ourselves the way we're carrying ourselves or conducting ourselves or behaving ourselves the way we're behaving as we are now. So when it talks about, it says, when the Lord thy God shall bring thee into the land, whither thou goest to possess it, and have cast out many nations before thee. Now, can anybody tell me, why is the Lord casting out these nations before thee? Like, why is the Lord casting out these nations before you if you are so-called Black, Hispanic, or Native American? If you are the Israelites, according to the Most High, can anybody tell me? I'm going to continue reading though, but I want y'all to put it into the chat, all right? Cast out many nations before thee, the Hittites, and the Girgashites, and the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites, 7 nations greater and mightier than thou. All right. Now these nations right here that the Lord is spewing off. And here's my second question. All right. Here's my second question. All right. Who and if anyone can ask me, who are these nations today? Some of these nations do exist today. All right. Who would these nations be? Who would we know them as today? If anyone has the answer to my second question. Salaki. Let's see. So my first question, so we don't take on their customs. That is true. That's one way. All right. Who else? Anybody else got an answer to my first question? But that's a good answer. And so it is so we are divided. It's because the Lord was always about division. The Lord wanted this land to be ours. The Lord wanted this land, which is going to be eventually known as Israel, like that was going to be our land for our people, for our fathers, our mothers, our sons, our daughters, our brothers, our sisters, for generations to come after us. Like this was going to be for us. Now, for my second question, does anybody know the nation or the nationality and the races or the race of the Girgashites, the Amorites, the Canaanites, and the Perizzites, and the Hivites, the Jebusites? Does anybody know or aware of who they are? Anybody want to give it a shot? La'a, okay, Ra'ai is a no. Okay, I see a few people. Okay, La'a, so no sweat. So Officer Yagadar, give Officer Yagadar and Sister Tarabak an absolute hand. They would be considered Hamites. All right, they would be considered Hamites. And now Hamites, give Officer Mataza a hand as well. Hamites or Africans that we would know today, so-called Africans. Now, once again, this is all about history. All right. We want to understand how the Lord is all about division, and the Lord wanted us to be divided. All right. And most importantly, the Lord wanted us to understand how divided and how divided we are from the Africans, or the so-called Africans, or the Hamites according to the Bible. All right. The Lord wants us to fully understand that, because of our oppressor and because of the Christian church, we have now been lumped in to identify with being so-called African as well, because of Jesse Jackson and Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton, and those Christian political leaders have pushed a narrative sometime in the 80s, all right, late 70s and throughout the 80s, that so-called black people are African American, right? Simply because we quote unquote came from Africa or the coast of Africa. And so now we've been lumped in with the Nigerians and the Algerians and the Egyptians and those Moroccans, Ethiopians, Kenyans, the people from Rwanda, well, Zootopia, whatever the hell they are over there in Africa. We've been lumped in with them. All right. And there's so many, and of course, if you're talking about different kinds of, you may hear conscious black people talk about it, but we got the same genomes and we share the same cells and the membranes, and it's how it holds all the information of our DNA, and we're gonna cut the garbage today as well. All right, because simply understanding that is why we're still connected to these other gods and goddesses that we were never supposed to serve. Y'all go ahead and look up for me the different gods and goddesses of Africa, and you'll start to see what I'm talking about. Go up and look up the gods and goddesses of Egypt, like Osiris and them, and all the different gods with the different animal faces and things like that. Like you'll start to see what I'm talking about, because we still hold dear to some of the customs. We hold dear to the customs of the Africans simply because we think we are African. That's why it was so important to hold on to your identity, because once you don't know who you are, you'll start to identify yourself with other races and nations of people, and you'll start to take on customs in the culture of different nations and races of people that you were never supposed to take part of, that you were never supposed to join yourself to. And so when the Lord continues to say, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and get the in just a bit, but I'm gonna go to the next scripture. Verse 2, and when the Lord thy God, we're in Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 2, and when the Lord thy God shall deliver them before thee, right? Because the Lord is going to deliver them before us, all right? Because they're going to be there in that land. And there's going to be a way that we're supposed to deal with these other nations and races of people when we get into the land of Israel. Historically speaking, we were supposed to go into the nation of Israel, and if I have time, I may go into the book of Joshua and show you the different wars, all right, and the different battles that we had against the Girgashites and the Perizzites and the Hivites and the Canaanites, the Girgashites, the Amorites, all of these so-called Africans that they would be called today. The Africans that they would be called today. All right. It says, and when the Lord thy God shall deliver them before thee. Now here's the them. Is anybody aware? Of course, everybody should be aware, all right, of the Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary. And you may have heard Captain say this many times. You may have heard Officer 500 Mataza A say this many times. You may have heard Officer 500 Yagadar say this many times. Officer 50 Akal Safar, eventually many times. And eventually you may even hear Officer 50 Shamagabar say this plenty of times. We always go into the Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary because the majority of these definitions are important to understand, all right, because we need a full understanding of the Bible, all right? And so now when it says Ham, it says the youngest son of Noah, born probably about 96 years before the flood, and one of 8 persons to live through the flood, he became the progenitor of the dark races. Now, I want you to understand that Ham became the progenitor of the dark races. Now, within every nation and race of people, there are dark-skinned people. Having dark skin isn't abnormal. It's actually very normal to have some form of pigment within your skin. What's really abnormal is when you don't. So like our oppressor, that's an abnormal skin tone, right? Being, you know what I'm saying? Like that's abnormal. The majority of the people on the entire earth, no matter what nation or race you are, has pigment, has some kind of skin tone, and may even be dark. If you go into Saudi Arabia and places like Arabia and Pakistan and places like that, you'll find people that are absolutely dark skinned. Of course, you can go into Africa, which is just a continent, and there's over 50 countries. I mean, over 50 countries in Africa, and you'll find dark skinned people, of course. You can go into the middle of Asia and go into the middle of the Philippines, and you will find people and their nation and race of people. You will find within their nation and race of people dark skinned people. So having dark skin doesn't mean you're considered black, right? Just because you have dark skin, that doesn't make you Latino. Just because you have dark skin, that doesn't make you Native American. It doesn't make you black. It doesn't make you Costa Rican or Colombian or Peruvian. All right. It doesn't make you Mexican. It doesn't make you Navajo or Iroquois. It doesn't make you Muskogee or Creek or Blackfoot. It doesn't make you Chickasaw or Jigsaw. It doesn't. It's a Choctaw. It doesn't make you that. Dark skin is quite normal around the planet. All right. It says, Edward says, one of the biggest things I see is sisters wearing the African beads. Yeah, so those African beads, those beads even mean something. All right. I may not be able to go into there today, but I'll let you know some of those beads actually mean something. Like there's a spirit behind those beads. I believe it's dealing with fertility, and is a very sexual background with those beads that sisters have around their waist. At least the majority of those beads. All right. You want to actually look into, if you have these waist beads, you may want to look into the spirit behind those beads and where they come from. I know a lot of our people, because we're Haitian and things like that. And you know, if you're down south, I've noticed these beads, and you got gauges in your ear, and you might be tatted up somehow. Like all of that is a spirit, right? Because we joined ourselves to these other nations. All right. What else did I see? Salakia, can you define progenitor? That's a good question. So progenitor. All right. So let's look up the definition of progenitor. Now, sister, that was Sister Ra'aya's question, and that's a very good question. So we're gonna go into we're gonna go ahead and go into the Webster's dictionary. Now, throughout classes, you also want to have a Webster's dictionary. All right. And so now to give you a brief definition of progenitor, that's really talking about like you're the father of something. All right, you're the progenitor of something. So let's go to progenitor. Let's see. All right, definition one, an ancestor in the direct line, forefather. All right. B, a biologically ancestral form. All right, or originator. So you are the forefather, all right, or the biological ancestor of these people. All right, you're the originator of these people. You stand in the front line on that family tree. Does everybody understand? That's what it means to be a progenitor of something. And Ham was the progenitor of the dark races. All right. That's who he was the progenitor of. All right. But the majority of the people on the entire planet had dark skin or some kind of pigment in their skin. They may have not been super dark or charcoal dark or, back in the alley type dark, but they had pigment in their skin and they were pretty dark people. You understand? Is everybody following? All right. It also goes on to say, he became the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes. But it says not the Negroes. Once again, it says not the Negroes. Now, can anybody tell me who are the Negroes? You can just put in the chat and I'm going to say it myself. A Negro is someone who is so-called black in America. Do you understand? That's who a Negro is. All right. A Negro isn't an African. Being black isn't African. All right. I know there could be some confusion because we all have dark skin. All right. But we are far, and I mean absolutely far from being African. Just understand that skin tone does not correlate or correspond with your race alone is absolutely important to understand. And I mean absolutely important to understand, because you will truly get lost in this world if you continue to believe that we are like everyone else. All right. So there's other few things that we're going to go ahead and go into as well. Right. So-called African Americans. That is who the Negroes are. Page 60 something. Or 62, 64. Right. There we go. Right. I'm going to have this ready for y'all too as well. All right, so that's who the Negroes are. Also, there's a good book as well. I may have mentioned it before. All right, which is a book that we also need to get for the school. Now, this is a personal one that I have. All right, can anybody kind of see the words of it? I'm gonna read it to you. All right, this is called "The Nature Knows No Color Line." All right, and throughout this book, it explains the history of the Jews being in Europe and us being called Negro or us being called Moor, which just meant black. So that's also something to look at. That's also something to understand too as well. A good book to read. I'm not so much going to go into this, all right? But I want to break down the foundation on why we keep serving these other gods and goddesses and why we've attached ourselves to, and they cause so much destruction. All right. The Lord told us to be careful who we yield ourselves to. Something absolutely important, and not realizing the spirit behind it. All right, we're going to continue reading though. All right, not the Negroes, meaning to not so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. So once again, let's just knock that out. Now another thing too as well, historically speaking, I would love to bring this out. All right, has anyone ever seen this book before? Let me see, I can move my hands. Can y'all kind of see this book right here? I know y'all may not be able to see the words. I can somewhat do my best to get it close to you. All right. But here's this book right here, and I'm going to just read it to you, right? So this is one of my favorite books as well. This is called Virgnia Egyptica, or Observations on Egyptian Ethnography Derived from Anatomy, History, and the Monuments. So there was a group of scientists, all right? A group of scientists, a group of the people who dig up artifacts too as well. And they were studying Egypt so hard, all right? They were studying Egypt so much because they wanted to know, Egypt was such a great nation and was such a great country and was a great government at one point in time. They wanted to know everything about it. Also as well, all right? Also, if I may add too, because of black people in America, everyone wants to correspond so-called black people or the so-called African Americans to Egypt. That's the main, out of all the countries in Africa, all right, out of all the countries in Africa, within all the cities and the tribes within Africa, we are corresponded to Egypt because as black people, right, we see ourselves as royalty. Now, we are royalty, all right? We do come from royal bloodline, all right? We do come from a chosen, some of us come from a royal bloodline, some of us come from, and all of us come from a chosen bloodline by God, all right? And you can consider that to be royalty if you would like, all right? Not all of us come from like the bloodline of kings, all right, in the bloodline of, of lords, but we are a chosen bloodline, all right? Just announce it like that. A lot of said la sir, okay, la sir. All right. The sister said Khan. Okay, so Ra'aya may know about the book. Okay, Most High in Christ. So it's called Virgnia Egyptica. All right. This really talks about Egypt and things like that. And so we're going to go to page 64. I mean, sorry, not page 64, 66. All right. And it breaks down, and is one of these lines right here that really hit home for me, right? And so in Virgnia Egyptica, page 66, and it's going to be number bullet points. I want to say it's number 8. Right, let's do number 8. It says Negroes were numerous in Egypt. All right. So it said Negroes were numerous in Egypt. Now, once again, you have to understand who the Negroes are. All right. The Negroes are the so-called African Americans. All right. Some of the Native Americans were considered Negroes too. Even the Hispanics and the Latinos were considered Negroes as well. So when you see Negro, it's not necessarily always if you see the word Negro, it doesn't always correspond with so-called black people alone or so-called African Americans alone. The word Negro corresponds with so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans because we were all considered to be Negroes at at some point in time. And now we're considered all kinds of things. The Lord says you be considered a byword, all right, and an astonishment, all right. That's what the Lord said. But in Crania Egyptica on page 66, it says in bullet point 8, Negroes were numerous in Egypt. So if you are so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native American, you are absolutely numerous in Egypt. You were numerous there. There was a bunch of us there. I wonder why. I wonder why scientists and archaeologists, there we go. Y'all should have told me it was archaeologists. Y'all was gonna let me just say people who pick up stuff out the ground. Y'all need to help me out a little bit every once in a while. So you got a bunch of archaeologists and scientists and different kinds of doctors, all right, going around Egypt and taking the bodies out of Egypt and different kind of monuments out of Egypt and different pictures out of Egypt and just studying and studying and studying them. And they came to the conclusion. This is the observation, all right, on Egyptian ethnography. Meaning this is talking about ethnicity. This is the observation. This is the conclusion that they came to. All right, they took the skulls and the bones and the bodies of these people, and they came to the conclusion that Negroes were numerous in Egypt. Now, this is your DNA. You're talking about your crania, your cranial, your bones. This is a part of your DNA. This is a part of your genetic makeup. Your bones have cells in it. All right. It starts from the process of atoms, and atoms turn into DNA, and then there's a step before DNA, and then DNA after that, and then you get what we are right now, humans. All right. And the Lord explains that in Ezekiel. But they came to the observation and the conclusion that Negroes were numerous in Egypt. But, meaning rather, right? But, here's the but. Their social position in ancient times. It says their social position. Now, when our oppressor talks about your social position, somebody break that down real quick for me in the chat. What is your social position or your social status? What is that? What does that mean? Break it down real quick. We got a little bit of time. What is a social position? What is a social status? Let's find out. Also, shalom, sis. Shalom, Anna. I see you in there too as well. And shalom, Hadassah. I see you there as well. Most High in Christ. The water for coming to class. I know y'all usually don't see me out here. I'm gonna do my best to do different appearances and things like that. So no sweat. But let's talk about it. All right. What is your social status or social position? All right. What does that mean? Anybody? For time's sake, I can give it to y'all. For time's sake, I'm going to give it to y'all. So when it comes to your social position or your social status, I'm going to say it like this. It's the status and the position that you hold in a society. As an individual, or even as a mass of people or a group of people, it's your position or status that you hold in a society. How you're viewed by others, that's true, either rich or poor. Give Sister Ra'aya a hand, give Sister Anna a hand. These are all good. Give Ahmadah a hand, I'll accept that, how important you are. Like, that's your social status. So like it. Those are examples of your social status or your social position. It's the rank or the position that you hold in a society or in an empire or in a nation or in a government. All right. And it could be based off of rich or poor. It's like how people see your worth. Yeah, that's right. How people see your worth. Right. These are all good answers. All right. And it could be based on worth, rich or poor, famous, non-famous, whatever the case may be. Right. Right. Give Sister Tabaka a hand. Rank that an individual holds. She said it's similar to me. Most High in Christ. All right. Give all y'all brothers and sisters a damn right hand. Damn right. That's exactly what a social position or a social status is. So starting from the top in Crania Egyptica. So anyone still in class or just joining class or following along, I'm in a book called Crania Egyptica, where doctors and scientists and archaeologists came together and studied Egypt, the bones of Egypt, the cranial of people in Egypt. They dug up graves, they went into the pyramids, they went into tombs, they took pictures, they took idols out and just studied everything about Egypt. And so on page 66, on bullet point 8, where it says Negroes were numerous in Egypt, but their social position, meaning the rank that they held in society, you understand? In ancient times, meaning not in times today, because we're not in Egypt right now. We're not numerous in Egypt, all right? But we are, but I'm not going to give it to you, but we're not numerous in Egypt. You understand? But in ancient times, these scientists and these doctors and these archaeologists came together and came to the conclusion that we were numerous in Egypt, and they also figured out our social position, our status, the rank that we held in society in ancient times of Egypt, within Egypt. All right. And so it says, but their social position in ancient times was the same that it is now. In ancient times was the same that it is now. That it now is. Sorry, I'm going to say it how it's read. In ancient times was the same that it now is. That, here it goes, that of servants and slaves. Servants and slaves. That are servants and slaves. So a bunch of doctors and scientists and archaeologists came up with the observation and came to an observation and came to the conclusion that if you are so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native American, you were numerous in Egypt. And not just numerous in Egypt, but your social status, your rank within the empire of Egypt was a servant and a slave. That was our position in Egypt, according to science, according to scientists and doctors and archaeologists and people who studied the bones. All right, the people who studied anatomy, people who studied the brain, and all kinds of things came to the observation and came to the conclusion that we were servants and slaves in Egypt in ancient times. You understand? It says, is that a heathen custom to examine bodies up to study them? Now that's a good question. Is it a heathen custom to study the body? Not necessarily a heathen custom. It's more so science. All right. There's no real. You're supposed to just bury the body. That's it. You're supposed to bury the body. The reason why it could easily be a heathen custom, I wouldn't say it's a heathen custom. I would have to really dig deep into the law to see if it's unlawful or not. Usually when a brother or sister passes away, you're supposed to just bury them. All right. And if they, and things like that. The reason why our oppressor and other nations have been studying the body simply because of they want to have, we want to go through technological advances or scientific advances to know about different diseases and how to cure these diseases. And so the Bible talks about honoring thy physician. So it's not necessarily a sin or against the Most High to study the body, because that's someone's job. You would just be unclean. There's your answer. It's not so much a heathen custom, but it's not against the law. All right. You're not mutilating the body. You're not trying to have relations with this corpse. You're studying the corpse because it may have had a disease, or you want to learn the anatomy of. You're trying to figure out the anatomy of the body, where the heart is, where the lungs, where the brain is, and these are things that doctors need to know. All right. So of course, a corpse may be. You may be able to examine a corpse and get more information out of it, and then bury it. But you will be unclean as a doctor if you do that. You will be unclean for a certain amount of days as a scientist if you do that. So of course, you wouldn't be. You would just be, set away for a period of time, and you couldn't be around the people, because that's what your job. That's what your job was within the nation of Israel, was to be a scientist, to be a doctor, to study the corpse, to have advances within medicine. Now, of course, we wouldn't have to have all of this if we just kept obeying God's laws, statutes, and commandments and ate the proper foods and had a better diet. And we weren't just unaliving each other or making decisions that had fatal consequences. We wouldn't have to worry about these things if we just kept God's laws, statutes, and commandments. But to answer your question, sis, that's actually a very good question. It's not so much a heathen custom, it's more so an occupation throughout time. And not just heathens, but Israelites, different scientists and doctors and whatever you want to call them, have studied the body. Let me know if I answered your question. All right. And so now when we going back into Crania Egyptica, all right, these scientists and these doctors and these archaeologists came to the observation and conclusion that if you are so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native American, your social status, your rank within the Egyptian empire was a servant and slave. Now, historically speaking, who were the people that were servants and slaves in Egypt? What nation or race of people were known in ancient times to be servants and slaves in Egypt? Can anybody answer that question? Let's see. Anybody got it? I could give it to you for time's sake, but I'm sure y'all go to answer. But I'm gonna go ahead and go to Exodus chapter 1, and I'm gonna go ahead. Y'all go ahead and give me the answer, but I'm gonna go to Exodus chapter 1, and I think I want to start at verse. I'm gonna start at verse 8, and I'm gonna quickly go through it, and then I'm gonna go back to Deuteronomy chapter 7, and I'm gonna continue reading. Now remember, we're gonna talk about how important it is to have division and divide ourselves from other nations and races of people, so we don't subject ourselves to their customs and their culture, and we end up identifying ourselves with them. Because the Lord never wanted us to identify ourselves with these other nations and races of people. The Lord is absolutely against it. So Exodus 1 and 8. Now there arose up a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph. So if you remember the story about Joseph, this is our history. This is a part of our culture. Joseph was sold, all right, was sold to some Egyptians, and he ended up in Egypt because his brother sold him out of jealousy and etc. etc. I'm not going to go through the whole breakdown, but we all ended up in Egypt because of it. And we had our own land, Goshen. We had our own land. We had the Pharaoh of that time. He was very he loved Joseph. He was very infatuated with Joseph because Joseph had a gift of dreams and being able to make something of your dreams if you had it. And of course, it saved Egypt from famine and etc. etc. That's the story. So Pharaoh was very infatuated with Joseph. He was inclined to Joseph, and he adored Joseph and gave him a high-ranking position in Egypt. And so by doing so, we all of the and here's the answer: all of the people of Joseph ended up being in Egypt. All right, y'all give me the answer. Who are the people who were known to be servants and slaves in Egypt in ancient times? Because this is what the book of Crania Egyptica is talking about. Now, I scientifically broke it down. I gave y'all DNA evidence of who these people are, and I want you to tell me in the live chat right now, even if you're on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, I want you to post in the live chat right now who these people are. All right, who these people are. I want you to tell me. All right, I want you to absolutely tell me. All right, but I'm gonna continue reading. All right, verse 9. All right, and he said unto his people. All right, now remember, the king of Egypt, which we know as Pharaoh, said to his people. All right, behold, the people of the children of Israel, all right, are more and mightier than we, All right, give y'all brothers and sisters a hand. All y'all Gadara, Israelites, Sister Tarbach, Israelites. Y'all go ahead and put the answer in the chat. I know y'all know the answer. All right, but for time's sake, I'm gonna continue going. But give yourselves a hand. Even if y'all didn't put the answer, I know y'all knew the answer. All right, y'all might be at the slavery or something, so I understand. I know y'all knew the answer. All right, they were more and mightier than we. And so Pharaoh said to his people, "Hey, yo, the Israelites, they growing strong, they're growing big, they look mightier than us. You know, you got a bunch of LeBron James and Shaqs walking around. You got Jose Reyes and Carlos Beltrans and Rodriguez's walking around. You know what I'm saying? You have a bunch of you got a bunch of sitting bulls running and walking around. All right, you got a bunch of Geronimos moving and walking around. You got these, you got a special people just walking around. You got intelligent people walking around. You got engineers and architects and scientists and doctors and people who are philosophers just walking around. Like these people are great and mighty in us. And on top of that, they knew how to farm. They knew everything about agriculture. They knew how to produce. You understand? And they knew so much. You understand? And they served one God. That right there was like, hey yo, they more and mightier than us. Verse 9. Salaki, verse 10. And he said, come on. Verse 10, come on. Let us deal wisely with them. All right? So let us deal wisely with them. So now here's the thing. A lot of these other nations and races of people, they have dealt wisely with us. You understand? And what it means, and we're about to find out what it means to deal wisely with them, to do wisely with the Israelites, to do wisely with the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. All right, let us deal wisely with them. Lest, meaning something bad is going to happen after this. All right, something not good is going to happen after this. Lest they multiply and they come to pass that it says, lest they multiply. Let's focus on that. Lest they multiply. The biggest fear that the other nations and races of people have with so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans is multiplication, is multiplying, is making more of yourself. That's why in America, all right, that's why in America, and just like in Egypt, I'm not even going to say it yet. I'm not even going to bring it up because I'm going to let the Bible talk about it. This is why division is important. This is why the Lord wanted us to be divided from these Africans, to be divided from the Girgashites, to be divided from the Jebusites, to be divided from the Canaanites, to be divided by the Hivites, to be divided by the Perizzites. Like this is why it was so important to be divided from these other nations and races of people. And of course, I'm focusing on Africa and I'm focused on the so-called Africans, but I'm talking about all nations and races of people as well. It doesn't matter if you're East Indian, it doesn't matter if you're Arabian, it doesn't matter if you're Chinese, it doesn't matter if you're Japanese, it doesn't matter if you're from Polish and from Poland, from Sweden, from Germany, from whatever the place may be. The Lord wanted so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans to be absolutely divided from these other nations of people. And it says, all right, in verse 10, lest they multiply, and it come to pass that when there falleth out any war, when there falleth out any war, they are also unto our enemies, and they join also unto our enemies, and they join also unto our enemies. That was another fear that these other nations and races of people had when we were at the bottom of their nation. All right, when we were not even at the bottom at this point in time, when we coexisted with them. All right, while we are just trying to coexist with you, these other nations and races of people wanted to deal wisely with you. All we want to do is coexist. Forever now, as blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, all we ever wanted to do was coexist. But as long as these other nations and races of people have power, it is absolutely impossible for blacks, Hispanics, and natives to coexist with these other people. And the Lord has shown, and throughout the Bible, the Lord shows us time again why we cannot coexist with these other people, why we can't coexist with the East Indians, why we cannot coexist with our oppressor, or coexist with the so-called African, or coexist with the so-called Arabian. Just like in America, all we wanted to do was coexist. That's why we pushed. That's why we pushed integration. That's why we pushed equality. All we wanted was equality. Integration was all about equality. We necessarily never really wanted to be within their cities. We just wanted the same rights. We wanted to be treated as equals. We wanted everyone to know that we are the same as you. It was always about coexistence. But what we have to understand and what we have to be taught is that we cannot coexist with these people. And we will never be able to coexist with these people as long as they have power. That's why it's important for us to have the power, for us to be in charge, for us to have authority, to us to have rulership. You understand? That's why it's important for us to serve the Most High under Christ. This is why it's important for Christ to return. This is why it's important for Christ to be our King, because it is absolutely impossible for us to coexist with these other nations, the races of people, as long as they have power and they are in charge. Let's continue reading. All right. And it cometh, all right, and join unto our enemies and fight against us. And so get them up out of the land. And so get them up out of the land. So now he's like, we got to do wisely with them and we got to get them out of here in some way, form, or fashion. Let's go to verse 11. Therefore, they did set over them taskmasters. Somebody in the chat, y'all let me know what a taskmaster is real quick. What is a taskmaster? For time's sake, I'm going to give it to you, but still put it into the chat. What is a taskmaster? Having participation as well is important because y'all going to remember this information as long as you participate. All right. Therefore, they did set over them taskmasters. A taskmaster is a modern would be a modern day slave master. All right, is a slave master, someone who gives out orders and tasks. All right, a taskmaster to afflict them with their burdens. It says to afflict them with their burdens, right? An overseer, like a police, like a controller, a slave master. Give y'all brothers and sisters a hand. I'll take all of those answers. I'll take all of those answers, all right? An overseer, a police, a slave master. Like all of these are considered a taskmaster to afflict them with their burdens. It says to afflict them with their burdens. Everybody, somebody tell me, what is a burden? What is a burden? I'll give it to you for time's sake, all right? It's like a load that you got to carry, something that's oppressive, all right? Something that's oppressive is like your duty and your responsibility, all right? So if you have a responsibility and a duty, all right, this taskmaster is going to afflict you with your burdens, all right? He's going to afflict them with their burdens. You're going to have a burden. You're going to have an oppressive responsibility. It says hardship and pain, a load, a heavy load, exactly, trouble. Like this is going to be your oppressive responsibility. That's it, our oppressive duty. Not just any kind of duty, that's not any kind of hardship, but an oppressive hardship and oppressive pain, all right? An oppressive trouble, right? And an oppressive heavy load. I want y'all to make sure y'all add the word oppressive in front of everything that you're saying because it makes a difference. A heavy load is no problem. But when it becomes oppressive, now it's a problem. Like having a load is no problem. But if it's oppressive, then it's a problem. Like having a hardship and pain, that's life. Going through hardship and going through pain is life. But oppressive hardship and oppressive pain, now that's a whole different story. Now we're talking about something different. This is what the Egyptians did. This is what the Egyptians did. Keep in mind, in the book, Virgnia, all right, this is the same status, the same social status, same social position, all right, that we held in America. We also held in Egypt at a numerous amount as servants and slaves. It's right here. It's also recorded in the Bible. So it's not just recorded here in the book of Virgnia and proving DNA in cells, all right? It's also not just proven that we're not Africans and we're not the same as the Egyptians in here in the Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary, but it's also in the Bible. So like, let me grab it for you real quick. So y'all know that we also have a Bible. It's also in the Bible, in the King James, all right, the King James Version, 1611 King James Version Bible. It's also in the Bible. So what are we talking about here? What is there really to discuss, right? We're going to continue reading, of course, right? Let's continue, all right? And they built for Pharaoh treasure cities, Pithom and Ramses. So now as a people, we built them treasure cities. Y'all give me an example of a treasure city, a treasure city today in America. Y'all give me an example of a treasure city in America, all right? Because remember, in Crania Egyptica, all right, and in the Bible, it says that we were servants and slaves in Egypt at a numerous amount. That was our social position. That was our social status. That was the rank that we held in society and the empire of Egypt. We also held it in America. We also held this in America. So y'all let me know. What's a treasure city? Y'all give me a treasure city in America. In Egypt, it was Pithom and Ramses. In America, y'all go ahead, y'all let me know. And I'm gonna continue reading. Y'all give it to me. All right, y'all give me some examples of a treasure city in America. Verse 12. But, meaning rather, the more they afflicted them. It says the more they afflicted them. The more they afflicted them, meaning the more that they caused so much oppression and so much oppressive pain and so much oppressive suffering. You understand? The more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew. So no matter how much you oppressed us as a people, we still multiplied and we still grew. You understand? The brother said Texas, that's a state. All right. That's a state. That's not so much a city, but no sweat. I'll take it. Vegas, that's a city. All right. You understand? Let's talk about it. Vegas, that's a city. New York City. I'm surprised y'all didn't say New York. New York City is a treasure city. Everybody loves the Big Apple. We built New York City. But I'm surprised no one said Philadelphia. You understand? We built Philadelphia. That's a treasure city. America holds Philadelphia and New York as treasure cities. Vegas, somewhat of a treasure city due to its legalization of prostitution. It might be considered a treasure city. It's very treasured. You understand? But DC, that's a treasure city. Give that brother a hand. You got Chicago. That's a treasure city. New Orleans, that's a treasure city. Los Angeles, that's a treasure city. Like these cities are well known. Phoenix, these cities are well known throughout America, and every American wants to visit them because of how great they are. The ones we do know for sure are LA, DC, Vegas, Philadelphia, and New York. Those are the ones for sure. Baltimore, we can call it a treasure city too. We built Baltimore. Now, Baltimore may not be so treacherous as DC. It may not be as treacherous as Philadelphia, all right, in New York City, but it's definitely a treasure city. We built these cities, you understand? We built them up, you understand? Remember, science said we built it up, and the Bible said we built it up. So what are we talking about here? Like, this is why the Lord wanted us to be divided. This is the part of history that we needed to know, so we did not identify ourselves with these other nations or races of people and take on their customs and their gods and their goddesses. Let's continue reading. Then I'm going to head back to Deuteronomy chapter 7. I'm going to try to make this quick. And they were grieved because of the children of Israel. They were grieved. You understand? Like, these Egyptians were grieved because they still seen through our oppression, we were still able to multiply. We were still able to grow. We were still able to become the scientists. We were still able to become philosophers. We were still able to become doctors. We were still able to become architects. We would still be able to become engineers. We would still be able to become nurses. We were still able to become teachers. We were still able to grow and make children and have families. We were still able to do that through all the oppressive suffering and pain and workload. We were still able to do it. And they were grieved because of it. They were upset because of it. And now, here we go, verse 13. And the Egyptians made the children of Israel serve with rigor. You understand? Serve with rigor. Anybody know what rigor means? That's talking about your pain. You understand? With great rigor. You understand? With great rigor, meaning harsh inflexibility. You understand? You understand? That's what rigor talks about. It's harsh, it's inflexible, severity, cruelty, strictness. You understand? Like that's what that is. That's what our oppressor did. You understand? That's what it means to be in rigor. And the Egyptians made the children of Israel to serve with rigor, right? With absolute inflexibility. There was no flexible schedule for you. It was absolute severe. You understand? There was no days off. You understand? That's why when you read into the story, Moses was like, "Hey, yo, we need a day off to serve our Lord." You understand? We need days off to serve our power, the God of Israel. And the Egyptians looked at like, "Hey, yo, you lazy bum, you good. You need to get back to work. You got far too much time to be up here talking to me when you should be in the fields. You got wheat to chop up, vegetables to pick. Why are you even in my face? You know what? Allow me to add more to your burdens because you have far too much time. All right, you have far too much time on your hands that you had the time to come to me talking about you got to serve your God." You understand? If we read further into the story, Pharaoh's heart was hardened. You understand? The Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart. Not the Lord, and when I mean the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, his heart was already hardened against the Israelites. And that's how the Lord had the ability to further harden his heart. Because there was already hatred there. There was already a disposition there against the Israelites. That's why he set all of this up. That's why we're reading it in Exodus chapter 1. Let's continue reading. Verse 14. And they made their lives bitter with hard bondage. Remember, in the book of Crania Egyptica, it tells you we were numerous in number, and we held the same position and status in Egypt that we did in America as servants and slaves. So just like in America, all right, just like in America, our lives were bitter and we served in bondage, in mortar and in brick, and mortar and in brick, just like we built these brick cities, these brick treacherous cities. You understand? There's nothing but bricks in DC. There's nothing but brick monuments and brick buildings and brick statues in DC. Nothing but brick buildings and brick statues and brick houses, all in Baltimore, all in Philly, all in New York, all in New Orleans, all in LA, all in Seattle, all in Vegas, all in Jacksonville, all in these treacherous cities that we built up. All of it is filled with a bunch of brick and mortar because we built these cities. The Native Americans built the skyscrapers. It came from the skywalkers, being not afraid of heights and being able to be up real high up to build these buildings. It wasn't our oppressor who built all of these buildings. It was the Mexicans. It was the Puerto Ricans. It was the Dominicans. It was the Navajo, the Iroquois, the Skywalkers. That's who built these treacherous cities, just like we built them in Egypt. Science said it. The Bible said it as well. It says, in all manner of service in the field. In all manner of service in the field. We were in them fields. Just like how we were in them cotton fields in America, we was in them fields in Egypt. Egypt had fields. Just like the tobacco fields, the sugar cane mills and fields, all right? All kinds of fields, the vegetables, the crops, all the fields, the cotton fields. Black people, we were in them fields. The Native Americans, we were in them fields. The Hispanics, we were in them fields. Does everybody understand? Does everybody get the point that's being made? We were in them fields in America, just like we were in those fields in Egypt. And the only nation of race of people who were ever in them fields were the Israelites. The Israelites, the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. We were the majority of the people in them fields, if not all. All their services wherein they made them serve was with rigor. So no matter what your service was, you could be a nurse in Egypt, it was with rigor, just like it is today. Look at them nurses in them hospitals. There's nothing but black women becoming nurses. There's no more black nurses in a little bit. You understand? If you go to any hospital and you walk that floor, there's nothing but black nurses everywhere. Nurses, nursing jobs, not just RNs. I'm talking about your RNs and your LPNs, your CNAs, your medical assistants. All of those positions are held by nurses. And they have to work 16 hours a day just to survive because of the extreme poverty that we live in. Does everybody understand where I'm coming from here? Doesn't matter what manner of service, it was with rigor. You could have been an electrician, a construction worker. You could have very well been a doctor or an engineer or a scientist in Egypt. And you had to work 8 to 10 hours and just days on out and hours on and sundown to sun up. They were just working the hell out you. That's because they dealt wisely with us. That's what it meant to deal wisely with you. You understand? Let's continue. All right. Verse 15. And the king of Egypt spake to the Hebrew midwives, of which the name of one was Shiphrah, and the name of the other was Puah. Verse 16. So the king came down and he spoke to these Israelite sisters. He spoke to these Black, Hispanic, and Native American sisters, man. And verse 16, and he said, when ye do the office of a midwife, all right, the office of a midwife was someone who was there for a woman giving birth. That was the office of a midwife, and also helping the woman not just give birth, but also helping the woman take care of the children. Like that was a midwife. That was the responsibility of a midwife. All right, to the Hebrew women. All right, and see them upon the stools. If it be a son, then ye shall kill him. It's like ye shall unalive him. All right, but if it be a daughter, then she shall live. You understand? This is the conclusion. This is the conclusion that our oppressor came to in Egypt, just like in America. Because we were multiplying, because we were growing, because you couldn't stop us from being great simply because of all the oppression, now we're going to unalive your children. Now we're going to unalive your babies at birth. In America, because of scientific advances, they have the ability to unalive your child before it's even a damn embryo, before it's even a fetus, or while it's an embryo and while it's a fetus. Like an abortion is just a fetus in a fetus or embryo form. So like it, all right. They have this because of scientific advances. Now our oppressor can unalive your baby, unalive your embryo in a fetus, which is a life. You understand? A living thing. You understand? While in your womb. That's because they dealt wisely with us. That's what it meant to deal wisely with us. There was no other solution. Now, why did they say the sons but keep the daughters? Because you can multiply with women. You can multiply with women, all right? And it will still be your nation and race of people. But if you let the sons live, this was the only way to continue a race of people was through sons, was through a man. They knew if we wanted to stop them from growing, we have to cause them to not exist. And the only way to have them not exist was we have to unalive their sons, because it is the man, the son who continues the bloodline, who continues the nation of people, who carries on his race and nation of people, because he is the one who carries the seed. This is why it was important, all right? That's why a son was important. This is why a man was important. Not to say a woman is not, because women are very important. Our daughters are extremely important, but our oppressor understood science, not just scientifically, all right? You can even say common sensibly, all right? And or quote unquote wisely, that you have to unalive the sons so they can no longer grow at the rate that they're growing, and one day just extinct them all. That's how much disposition the Egyptians had against so-called Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. Once again, in Virgnia, Egyptica, it says it right here as well. This was the position that we held. In the Bible, this was the position that we held. And the Bible gave detail of how we were treated and how we lived. That's important to understand. That's extremely important to understand. So now let's go back to Deuteronomy chapter 7. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get it. So Deuteronomy chapter 7, and I believe we were in verse 2. It says, "And when the Lord thy God shall deliver them before thee," because now, all right, the previous context was we were about to go into a land that the Lord is going to give us, and it's fully populated with so-called Africans. And they're the Hivites, the Hittites, the Girgashites, the Canaanites, the Perizzites, the Jebusites, you name them. All right, these are so-called Africans today. "And when the Lord thy God shall deliver them before thee, thou shalt smite them." We were supposed to go to war with them at this time. We were supposed to go to war with them. We were supposed to battle them and completely eradicate them out of the land, because this was the land that the Lord gave to us. These were the kind of people who were a part of oppressing us. You understand? The Lord said you're gonna have to get rid of them. All right? And that's the spirit that the Lord wants us to understand. Now, I'm not telling any brother and sister to go out there and find some Nigerian and whatever, or I'm not saying none of that. What I'm saying is the spirit of the Lord was we were supposed to go against them. We were supposed to fight them and battle them. We were never supposed to join them. We were never supposed to coexist with them. We were never supposed to try and be equal with them. Like, that was never the spirit of the Lord. And it says, "and utterly destroy them." All right, and utterly destroy them. You understand? We were supposed to destroy them. That was it. This was the kind of spirit. This was the spirit of the Lord right here. This was the kind of spirit that the Lord wanted us to have. And even to this day, the Lord wants us to resemble a spirit like this, to be against our oppressor, and wanting to understand that our oppressor has to be destroyed. Our oppressor has to be destroyed if we want to live. If you want to ever truly be free, our oppressor has to be destroyed. Our oppressor has to pay for what he and she has done to so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans throughout the planet Earth. You understand? They have to be. "Thou shalt make no covenant with them." A covenant meaning an agreement. We were never supposed to make agreements with them. We were never supposed to make treaties with them. We were never supposed to join them. We were never supposed to make ideas with them. Like, the spirit of the Lord was always about being divided. The Lord was always about division, nor show mercy unto them. The Lord said you weren't even supposed to show mercy to them. You were never supposed to give them the opportunity to live. That's what it means. Mercy is giving you the opportunity to live. That's the biblical definition of mercy. Mercy isn't what the Christian church taught you. Mercy isn't what the Christian church taught us. It wasn't what the pastor said, nor what your deacon said, nor what the bishop said. Mercy was giving you the opportunity to live. You weren't even supposed to you were never supposed to give these nations and races of people in Deuteronomy chapter 7 the opportunity to live. You were supposed to utterly destroy them. This was the kind of spirit that the Lord wanted us to have when coming into the land of Israel during this time. And the Lord wants us to have an understanding of it now. Now, once again, I ain't telling you to go out there and be like, "Hey, yo, you should even have the opportunity to live and just cut down our oppressor." I ain't telling you to do that. I ain't telling you to bust a grape. I ain't telling you to bust a Draco. I ain't telling you to shoot the Glock on no oppressor, no African, no nothing. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is, that's it. That's all I'm saying. Enough said so I don't get flagged. All right, verse 3. Now let's go to verse 3. "Neither shall thou make marriages with them." It says, "Neither shall thou make marriages with them." Now this is most important. This was most important. This was imperative. It says, "Neither shall thou make marriages with them." Because of Christianity and because of all of this oppression, we have been conditioned to be in the mindset that we're allowed to make marriages with anyone we so choose. The Lord never was in that kind of spirit. The Lord had rules and guidelines for everything. We were supposed to fashion ourselves after the spirit of the Most High. Damn right, Swiss, quam yasha Allah. You understand? Neither shall thou make marriages with them. We were never supposed to make marriages with them. Anybody know what's marriage? Sex is marriage, according to the Bible. So we were never supposed to have sex with these other nations and races of people. We were never supposed to have relations with these other nations and races of people. We were supposed to be divided. We were supposed to have division, even in our marriages. It's not like that today in America, all right? But in Egypt, it was like that as well. Just like how it is in America right now, it was in Egypt. That's why the Lord is telling us right now, we're just coming out of Egypt in Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy takes place before us going into the land of Israel. And as we speak, Moses is telling us in Deuteronomy the laws, statutes, and commandments because we just got finished leaving Egypt. The spirit of the entire law is to not do what the heathen do. Is to not do what the Egyptians did. That was the entire spirit of God. Was if you see a heathen do it, you might want to question it. If you saw Ubuntu do it, you might want to be like, I don't know about that. I don't think I'm supposed to be doing that. If you see Bantu taking some needles and poking himself with it to make keloids and make a bunch of bumps over his body, you might want to be like, I don't think I'm supposed to be doing that because Bantu doing it. I don't see Yarash doing it. I don't see Natazak Nashad doing it. I don't see Mataza Al-Karad doing it. I don't see Yagadar doing it. I don't see Shemagabar doing it. Akal Shapar doing it. I don't see Anab doing it. I don't see Amadab doing it. I don't see Hadasat doing it. You understand? I don't see Ra'ayah doing it. I don't see Tawabak doing it. So I don't think I should be doing it. I don't think so. I don't see Dabarat doing it. I don't know. I don't think I should be doing it. Like that was the entire spirit of the Most High. This is what the Lord wanted us to understand. This is why he's saying the things that he's saying. So when it talks about Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 3, neither shall thou make marriages with them, right? Meaning we weren't even supposed to have relations with them. In order to make a marriage, you have to have relations. You were not supposed to bust down nobody outside of your nation. That's the Lord's words, not mine. Thy daughter thou shalt not give unto his son. So if you have a daughter, you was never supposed to marry your daughter to their sons. You were never supposed to allow your daughter or give your daughter to allow her to have relations outside of her race or nation of people, right? You have somebody called the Williams sisters, all right? Serena Williams and whatever the sister's name, I can't think of it, but they both have husbands outside of their nation and race of people. That was not of God. That was not of the Spirit of God. If you are a woman who believes in God and believes in having the Spirit of God, and you want to walk down the street talking about the water, sis, Venus Williams, and you talking about I have the fruits of the Spirit, and I'm filled with the Holy Ghost, and I'm covered by the blood of Jesus, and you getting bust down by an Edomite, that's not of God. That's not of God. Lucky, that's not of God. Halle Berry, not of God. That's why she on child support by three oppressors. That's not of God. Make it make sense. That's not of God. So the fruits of the Spirit told you to get your back blown out by some Edomites? I don't think so. It's not in the Bible. Everybody sees what I'm coming at. Everybody sees it, right? It's right there. No, the Lord never said it. The Lord never approved it. And you got the nerve to start talking about love is love. Absolutely not. This is something really important to understand. It says, thy daughter thou shalt not give unto his son, nor his daughter shalt thou take unto thy son. Let me tell you something, brother. You the worst of it all for real. You know what I'm saying? You telling me you looked at Becky and Stephanie and said, yeah, I like that. Listen, brother, I don't know what to tell you. It's not of God. Whatever your mama told you, whatever your daddy said, whatever your granddaddy, grandmama said, whatever your pastor, your bishop, your deacon said, the Lord never approved you to go after a woman outside of your nation or race of people. That's against God. But that's what was happening in Egypt, and it's happening now in America. Y'all give me some examples of interracial marriaging in America when a man is marrying outside of his race. I give y'all a woman, and there's others. Let's talk about Terrence Howard. Terrence Howard apparently is a scientific genius. Apparently, he has studies and patents about science and molecules and 1+1 apparently isn't 2 or whatever. 1 times 1, the rule of multiples doesn't exist. This is what happens when you go outside of your nation and race of people and you marry an oppressor. You marry a Becky. You marry a Stephanie. All right? I'm just naming oppressors for the time being, but this also applies to so-called Africans and so-called East Indians and so-called Asians, all right, or the Chinese and Japanese and so-called Arabians. That this applies to them too. You understand? Why do you think Terrence Howard is going back, whatever, crazy about 1 times 1 isn't really 1? Well, I'm sorry, I think it was like 2 times 1 isn't 2, or 1 plus whatever the hell. It doesn't even make sense. I don't know. You said Jeezy, right? Cuba Gooding Jr., pretty much all the basketball players. Diddy. Diddy is not even a part of this discussion. Diddy, this scripture does not apply to Diddy. Diddy is Zalakia. Diddy is no. I'm not even going to use Diddy as an example. But the water says, but I'm not even going to use Diddy as an example here. He's just all right. You got Dave Chappelle, exactly. All of these men in the nation of Israel, if you are so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native American, these athletes, these pro athletes, these stars, these comedians, these famous people, they went outside of their nation and race of people and married. Listen, that was never of the spirit of the Lord. The Lord never wanted us to go outside of our nation and marry and have relations. The Lord was never about it. Verse 4. For they will turn away thy son from following me. It says, for they will turn away thy son from following me. This is why it was important to understand that you couldn't just identify with anyone. This is why it was so important to understand that skin tone wasn't everything. Just because you were dark skinned, it did not mean we were the same people. You understand? This is why it was important to understand who you are and where you come from. Race is important. Your nationality is important. Your ethnic background is important. That's why to this day in America, it's on your applications. It's all embedded within America's court system. It's all embedded in America's occupation system. They have to meet a certain quota of hiring certain African Americans and other ethnic groups because your race actually matters and your nationality actually matters. You understand? All right. What's it called? Tamara Mari. It's about Tia and Tamara Mari, right? Right. The only reason why they marry oppressors because they're oppressors themselves. All right. Sister Amadal brought up a good point, right? Tia and Tamara Mari. Remember the show Sister back in the day, or the movie, the Halloween movie called Twitches? I don't know if y'all remember that back in the day, but those aren't sisters. All right. Those are just light-skinned white girls. All right, because their father is actually an Edomite. Their father is an actual oppressor. Like, this is why it was important that you were never supposed to give your daughter to their sons, because now this breeds confusion. Everyone thought that was a black woman. Everybody thought Tia and Tamara Mari were black. I remember growing up, if it wasn't for the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, I would have thought Tia and Tamara Mari were black girls this entire time. Simply because I based off someone being black just based off their skin, based off their skin tone. Skin tone don't mean nothing. Your father is what matters. It matters is who your father is. It matters who carries the seed. That's what matters. Officer Yagdar, you in the chat, go ahead and give me the precept and numbers, I believe, about how important who your father is. That's in the Bible. That's in the law. You had to know who your father was. Everything was based on who your father was. All right. If you didn't know who your father was, you weren't even allowed to be in the congregation until you were proven that you were an Israelite. And either the Lord was going to be with you or the Lord was not going to be with you. And the priest would take dice called a warium and tamayon. or Thummy Yum and a Warrior. They would take the black and white dice and they would roll it. And if it rolled right, you was an Israelite. If it rolled wrong, you gotta get the stepping. You understand? The Lord won't want you that day. You're not an Israelite. I love you. The Lord has done it. We gave it unto the Lord. The Lord said you not one. You understand? Shalom. Enjoy. You know what I'm saying? You should have chose wisely. You should have made better decisions. You understand? With who you decided to make, whoever you decided to make your husband or your wife, depending on he or she, man or woman. All right. For they will turn away thy son from following me, that they may serve other gods. That they may serve other gods. Like that's the condition of turning away thy son from following me. Right? That's the condition from not following the Most High, is by serving other gods. You understand? And this is what destroyed us as a people. Like that was such a dangerous behavior. You understand? A dangerous conduct. We were never supposed to go outside. Like this is one of the main reasons why we are serving gods and goddesses that we were never supposed to subject ourselves to. You understand? It's because we are not divided enough. All right? We don't have enough division. We don't have enough division. We're not divided enough to teach our people that, hey, we're not supposed to even be over there with them. We're not the fact that we're not even supposed to make agreements with them and covenants with them, and we were supposed to utterly destroy them and be completely divided from them. Now we're making marriages with them? Like, this is how dangerous it is. You understand? Let's continue. So, Laki, I'm going a little bit over time, but I want to be able to get to some certain scriptures, all right? I want to be able to get to them. And it says, so will the anger of the Lord be kindled against you and destroy thee suddenly. And it says, and the anger of the Lord be kindled against you and destroy thee suddenly. Like this kind of behavior is what destroyed us suddenly. Like this kind of behavior is what brought the ruinous behavior and the ruinous conduct within the Black, Hispanic, and Native American community. If you're wondering why our businesses are not progressing the way that they should, and our school systems aren't progressing the way that they should, and our cities and towns and neighborhoods are not progressing the way that they are, and our neighborhoods and our cities and our towns are filled with the most disgusting and hardcore drugs like your cigarettes, your tobacco, your marijuana, your opioids, your heroin, your promethazine, you name it, your coke, your crack, your mollies, your Percocets. You're wondering why our neighborhoods are flooded with these type of narcotics. It's because we were never supposed to join ourselves with these other races and nations of people. We were never supposed to make marriages with them. We were supposed to be in the mindset of to utterly destroy them. We were supposed to be completely divided because we are out of order. Exactly. That's what it means to be out of order. You're out of order if you are not divided from these other nations and races of people. You are out of order if you are serving another God outside of the nation of Israel. Give this sister hand. Also give y'all Gadar hands the water. Numbers 1 and 18. Everybody look in the chat. Numbers 1 and 18 is the precept that you are who your father is, and your father is important. All right. And it says, and destroy these suddenly. Like this is why we are living in the conditions that we're living in, because we are not divided enough. We need to be divided. The Lord is about division. Division is extremely important. Do you understand? Let's jump down. We're still in Deuteronomy chapter 27. All right. But let's jump down to verse 25. Let's see. There we go. Let's go to there we go. Yeah, let's go to verse 25. And then from 25, I think I'm gonna go ahead and I think I want something else too as well. We're gonna jump down to verse 25. And then I think I'm gonna go ahead and go to Deuteronomy 29 as well. All right. Yeah, I think there we go. We also gonna go there. But let's go to verse 25. We're gonna jump down real quick. Salakia, I'm gonna go over time. We had a late start, so Salakia, but I want to make sure y'all get a good lesson of how important it is to not serve these other gods and goddesses, and the history behind how important it is to know just who you are, just to know how important it is to know that you are an Israelite. This is your identity, all right? So now, Deuteronomy 7:25, the graven images of their gods shall ye burn with fire. Like this was the spirit of the Lord, all right? Does anybody know what a graven image is? All right, does anybody understand what a graven image is? Like this, right? The water, Salaki, the water says, I'm gonna do my best. All right, it's like we have to understand the spirit of the law. Like this is within the law, statutes, and commandments. The spirit of the law was to burn the images of idols, carve the images of gods. Like that's what a graven image is a carved image of a god or an image of an idol. You understand? All right. The graven images of their gods shall ye burn with fire. Thou shalt not desire. It says, thou shalt not desire the silver or gold that is on them. It says, thou shalt not desire. It says, thou shalt not desire. Now that word desire is a heavy word, man. That word desire is a heavy word. Let me break it down to you. You understand? Everything begins with desire. You understand? Every addiction begins with a diet, with desire. Does everybody understand where I'm coming from? Every problem begins with desire. I want you to understand that. Does anybody know what desire is? You understand? Like this is why it's so important to separate yourself and to be divided and to not serve these other gods and goddesses. Desire is literally by definition. Desire by definition literally is a conscious impulse. That's what it is. A desire is a conscious impulse toward anything that results in gratification or satisfaction. That's what desire is. It's an impulse that results in gratification or satisfaction. All of our problems begin with one word, and that's desire. You understand? A lot of our problems begin just with desire. Any addiction that any Black, Hispanic, and Native American is going through starts with desire. And it says right here, you understand? It says right here, let's continue reading. Thou shalt not desire the silver or gold that is on them. It says, thou shalt not desire the silver or gold that is on them. Somebody tell me, what's silver and what's gold? Everybody, real quick, take your time. Somebody tell me, what is silver and what is gold? Okay, Sister Ra'aya said money, ideals, okay, riches. You understand? I'm gonna take riches and money. Give the brother and the sister in hand. You understand? Silver and gold. Let me tell you something. Serving these gods, these idols come with money. That's the only reason, like that's a part of our desire. Our desire as a people. Remember, we just got finished talking about how because we were not divided enough, and because we did not seek division, we end up having relations with other nations and races of people, and it absolutely destroyed us. It destroyed us to the point of poverty. It destroyed us to the point of lacking resources within our communities, lacking resources in our neighborhoods, lacking resources in our towns and in our cities. And so because of so, we don't have money. But guess who does have money? These gods and goddesses have money. They have the silver. They have the gold. You know what entices us to serve these other gods and goddesses besides having relations with their women if you're a man, or besides having relations with the men if you are a woman? It's the money. That's what lures you in. That's what lured you in. That's what made you gravitate to these idols. Because you desired money. You desired wealth. You were greedy. And that's what was going to satisfy you. That's what was going to gratify you, was all of the money and all of the wealth and the riches that came with serving these other gods and goddesses. That's why these pastors and these bishops and these deacons continue to tell us to serve white Jesus Christ, because there's money in it. You can't make money unless you lose your values in America. You can't gain the wealth and the riches that you really desire unless you take away all of your values. That's why Christ said you can't serve God and mammon, because something has to go in order to reach a certain level of money, a certain level of rich. Something has to go. Look at Diddy. Something has to go. Look at Jay-Z. Look at Beyonce. Look at these celebrities out here. Something has to go. Your morality is the first thing to go in order to accomplish, all right, to gain the amount of money that you're looking for. And that's what enticed you. That was your desire. You understand? Does everybody understand? All right, let's continue real quick. All right. Nor take it unto thee. It says, nor take it unto thee. Now, how do you take something? Before you take something, you first have to what? Somebody read my mind. Before you take something, you first have to do what? Anybody online? Before you take something, you first have to do what? Want it? Okay, that's good. Think about it is a good word. All right. Want it? That's good. All right. Give Officer Yagadar a hand. Y'all weren't wrong, but there's a word that I wanted y'all to focus on, which was to desire it. Give Sister Raya a hand, to desire it. Before you take something, you first have to desire it. A lot of our problems, once again, come from that one word, desire. You understand? And it's a conscious impulse that results in gratification and satisfaction. It's your absolute impulse to be gratified and to be satisfied. You understand? Lest thou be snared therein. What is a snare? A snare is a trap. Like, this is what's going to trap you. These gods and goddesses trap you. Now you're snared, you're trapped. You understand? You're snared and you're trapped in it. Whatever that desire was, now you're snared and you're trapped in it. Give me a word that I would use for snare and trap. Imagine being trapped in something when you can't get out. It's a struggle to get out of it. What is that? What kind of word I would use? Y'all think about your Rashomon and how priest and officer Rashomon teaches his classes. What's the kind of thing that I would say? What would that trap and snare be synonymous with? Caught up, okay. Encased, okay. Anybody else? Those are good. Oppression made brothers think it was a prize to marry oppressors. That's true. That's true. That's a very true statement. Anybody else want to give it a shot? What kind of word? If you're trapped and you're snared and you can't get out of something, what would that be synonymous with? In prison? Okay. You guys are giving great answers, and I could be asking the question wrong. All right. Being in prison. All right. I'm gonna give it to you. I would use this in synonymous with the word addiction. You understand? Being trapped in something is being addicted to something. Being snared into something is being addicted to something. We have become addicted to serving these other gods and goddesses. We've been addicted to it. We fell to this trap, and it's hard to get out. And it's hard to get out of this trap. It's hard to get out of this snare. And we're just crawling and trying to crawl out of it. Some of these brothers and sisters realize that they should have never, ever entered this lifestyle. They should have never entered the lifestyle of wanting money. But because they're so far in it, they're so trapped in it because they're addicted to it. and take that anywhere. It could be with drugs, it could be with sex, it could be with whatever the case may be. You've now become ensnared into this kind of lifestyle. You've been addicted or imprisoned, all right, or ensnared or encased into this lifestyle. You're addicted to it and you can't get out. This is why it was so important to not serve other gods. This is why it was first important to be divided and to have division. This is why it was so important to not have relations outside of your race of people. This is why it was important to understand who you are and who you are not. It was so important that you were not supposed to base who you are off of skin color alone. This is why it was important, and we can save so many lives of our people just understanding the basics that color isn't everything, and the pigment of your skin isn't everything. We can save so many lives, and I mean so many. Let's see. For it is an abomination to the Lord thy God. It is an abomination to the Lord thy God. What does it mean to be an abomination? What does it mean to be an abomination? Y'all give me the meaning of that word. Good. Okay. Sister not disgusting. I like that. Disgusting. All right, oh, you dog disgusting. Okay, okay. All right, disgusting. It seems like I'm gonna get a lot of disgustings. All right, extremely evil. Okay, okay. I like it. All of y'all are correct. Especially if you use the word disgusting, you're absolutely correct. That's what an abomination is. But of course, you know, Yerashima, all right? To expand our vocabulary outside of the word disgusting, that's not the only thing an abomination is. I want y'all to understand there's a word called repugnant, to be repugnant, right? Disgust, all right, or hatred for. You guys are absolutely right. And this is something called, this is repugnant, all right? This kind of behavior, right? Serving other gods and goddesses and ended up being addicted to the lifestyle that comes with serving these other gods and goddesses. It's repugnant. It's a part of it's a part of a word called aversion. And y'all can go ahead and look that up and look what this means, all right? But this is in a desire that needs to be avoided. To break it down, this is something that's to be avoided. This is a evil or something so disgusting. This kind of behavior needs to be avoided. It's repugnant. It's an abomination. Do you want to be amongst something that's disgusting? No. We all avoid things that are disgusting. And this kind of behavior and this kind of conduct is absolutely disgusting. It's repugnant and it has to be avoided. So I'll break it down to you. If you're just focused on color alone, you need to avoid that. It's repugnant. It leads to an abomination. If you think that you're African, if you want to continue to join yourselves to other nations and races of people, it's repugnant. You understand? Right. It's the oppressor's way. It's disgusting. It's repugnant. It's a behavior and a conduct that you should absolutely avoid. You understand? For time's sake, I'm gonna cut too much into y'all times, all right, and also the radio shows and things like that. So with that, I say Shalom Israel, with the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, started at 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commander General Hunter. We're not affiliated with any other Israelite group nor any other Christian organization. With that, I say Shalom.
They said free the Palestinians, then celebrate the death of native Indians. How these other races gon' take us serious? They don't. It's silly thinking you can fight oppression with a vote. I'm so woke, I got sleep deprivation. Belly of the beast giving birth to a nation. You know how I feel to have culture and they take it. It'll never be peace, tell them free the reservation. Till it's backwards, they don't know that they exist no more. Ever try reaching out for help and you just get ignored? Pick up vices like drugs, your child fill a void. They get a youth life sentence for a killing, he was just a boy. Niggas poor, what we living for? Life a gamble, it's like 10 or 4. Police hands around your neck, they just hit record. We in war, man, this ain't the norm. But you don't know how I feel to be black. Yeah, you don't know how I feel to be black. Yeah, you don't know how I feel to be black. Yeah, you don't know how I feel to be black. Yeah, you don't know. Mama on the stage crying. She just lost her only son to gang violence. Pops level 4 yard talking through the vents. Have you ever tried to hug your loved ones through a fence? Have you ever been hated just because your skin? Have you ever worked all week and couldn't pay your rent? Life a trip, I'm trying to catch my balance. Every step feel like I'm walking backwards. Credit card, but God check the balance. I come from where it's rough, that's why my heart callous. They want you to fall weak, that's a war tactic. Look how we live, what's scary than that? What you know about crossing the Darien Gap? Risk your life to live in hell or bury your kids. Either way we gotta suffer and they just get rich. Life a bitch, why I waste time telling you that? Cause if you ain't a nigga like me, you don't know how I feel to be black. Yeah, you don't know how I feel to be black. Yeah, you don't know how I feel to be black. Yeah, you don't know how I feel to be black. Yeah, you don't know.